Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take your sources, dig deep, and call out the absolute gold, the surprising facts, the crucial insights, everything you need to get well-informed without the information overload. We are your guides, ready to unpack something that I think genuinely transforms how you see leadership.
And today, we have a fantastic source to explore, John Maxwell's influential framework, the 5 levels of leadership. This isn't just a concept, it's something Maxwell has refined over, 5 years?
Yeah, 5 years.
Right, from a lecture he's delivered countless times, to audiences ranging from military leaders at West Point to the innovators at Microsoft, and really all across the globe. It clearly speaks to something fundamental about, human interaction and growth.
It really does. And what makes this book so powerful is its core premise, which is both incredibly simple and, frankly, incredibly profound. Leadership is influence, period, not position.
That shift in perspective is everything, isn't it? We are so conditioned, I think, to see leadership as tied to a title, an office, or being at the top of the org chart. But Maxwell realized early on he'd seen plenty of ineffective people in powerful positions and, maybe more importantly, deeply influential people who held no formal position of authority whatsoever.
Right.
Just saying, I know a leader when I see one might sound wise, but it doesn't give you any practical handle on how to become one,
Right. It's not helpful for learning, and that's where the 5 levels come in. They provide a map, a learnable structure. If leadership is influence, then the goal is, to increase your influence. And this framework shows you exactly how that influence is built layer by layer over time and through intentional effort.
And that's why this material is valuable for anyone, really, regardless of whether you have a formal title or not. If you interact with people, you have the opportunity to influence them.
Yeah.
And this framework helps you understand how to do that effectively and, importantly, ethically.
So, our mission for this deep dive is clear. We're going to walk through these 5 levels step by step. We'll understand exactly what each level is about, how you grow through them, look at the real-world dynamics, the implications, all drawn directly from the sources you provided.
Okay.
Think of this as your shortcut to truly understanding Maxwell's powerful model and what it means for your own journey, wherever you are right now.
It's a journey everyone can embark on. So yeah, let's unpack it.
All right, let's start with the absolute cornerstone. Before we even get to level 1, Maxwell really hammers home this foundational definition. Leadership is influence.
And it's worth repeating because our conventional thinking, it often gets in the way. We equate leadership with position, power, authority granted by a title.
Sure.
But Maxwell's own experience, like that story about his first church board meeting, where the officially elected leader seemed almost irrelevant compared to the informal, influential leader named Claude.
Right, Claude.
That story shows that the person with the title isn't always the one with the influence.
And if we just say leadership is something you know when you see it, we might recognize it in others, but like you said, how do we develop it in ourselves?
Exactly.
That definition, leadership is influence, makes it something tangible, something you can learn, measure, and grow.
Precisely. If you want to become a more effective leader, you need to focus on increasing your influence with others. The 5 levels describe the different ways that influence is earned and the progression a leader makes as their influence expands.
Which brings us, logically, to level 1.
Yes, level 1, position. This is the foundational, kind of the entry level of leadership, if you can even call that in the true sense.
Right.
People follow you at this level, not because they want to, but simply because they have to.
Because you have the title, the role, the spot on the org chart. Your influence comes purely from the rights and rules granted by the position itself. The source emphasizes that while there's nothing inherently wrong with having a position, everything is wrong with relying solely on that position to get people to follow.
Precisely. Position is described as a very poor substitute for genuine influence. Leaders who operate primarily on level 1 are often seen as bosses rather than leaders.
Yeah, bosses.
They have subordinates rather than team members. They lean heavily on rules, regulations, policies to control behavior, and people will only follow them within the strict boundaries of their official authority.
Right.
You rarely see discretionary effort, that going the extra mile, from people led at this level. It's just about doing what's required to keep the job.
So you get compliance, but definitely not commitment. That sounds pretty restrictive. But are there any upsides to actually being in a leadership position, even if you're starting here?
There are, and the source points out a few important ones. First, simply being given a leadership position usually means someone in authority saw potential in you.
Okay.
The best leaders, like the legendary basketball coach John Wooden, looked beyond just seniority or politics. They promoted based on demonstrated potential. Wooden famously waited, a few games into the season to name his team captains?
Right, he observed first.
Exactly. Observing who showed leadership qualities, rather than just picking based on who was oldest or had been on the team longest.
That's such a smart way to approach it. Leadership is demonstrated, not just assigned. So being given the position is an acknowledgement of potential.
Yes, it's someone saying, I think you have something here. Second, having the position means your authority is recognized, at least formally. It's a starting point, an opportunity to prove that you deserve that recognition.
It gives you a seat at the table.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the third upside. You get opportunities to express your opinions, contribute to decisions. Your initial goal at this level should be to demonstrate competence and integrity, showing you are worthy of the position you've been given.
Okay.
And fourth, the position is essentially your welcome mat onto the leadership journey. You're in the game, you have a platform, however limited initially.
Okay, so it's a starting point, an opportunity. But reading the source, it's pretty clear that staying at level 1 is where the real problems begin. The downside section is extensive.
It truly is.
Yeah.
Maxwell lays out the challenges of getting stuck here. One major downside is that having the position can be incredibly misleading. It seems like you have more influence than you actually do.
Right.
That anecdote about the church board meeting with Claude is perfect. Here he had the title of pastor, but Claude, a long-time respected member, had the real influence.
Mm-hmm.
Maxwell realized he could have walked out, and the meeting would have continued just fine without him.
Ouch. That's a harsh realization. So position promises influence it doesn't deliver.
Right. And second, as we touched on, position is a poor substitute for influence. People follow grudgingly, doing only what is absolutely required. No discretionary effort, no passion.
And instead of focusing on getting people involved and contributing, these leaders often just focus on control.
That's the third point. Positional leaders rely on rules and hierarchy to control people, rather than inspiring contribution. The source describes these highly political environments where titles and unwritten rules dominate, creating a kind of minefield.
Yeah, minefield.
These workplaces are typically inefficient, rigid, and suffers from low morale. Think of overly bureaucratic systems where navigating the structure is more important than actually getting work done.
That makes perfect sense. And related to control, they often focus more on their rights than their responsibilities.
Absolutely. Fourth, this is a critical distinction. The source uses that fantastic analogy of Barney Fife from the Andy Griffith Show.
Oh yeah, Barney.
Barney was the epitome of a positional leader focused on his rights, his badge, his single bullet, demanding respect purely because he was deputy sheriff.
And it always ended badly.
Always led to chaos.
Yeah.
Sheriff Andy Taylor, on the other hand, rarely asserted his position or even carried a gun. His authority came from focusing on his responsibility to serve and protect the town. He had real earned authority without needing to lean on his title.
That paints such a clear picture. True authority is about responsibility and trust, not demanding rights based on a title. What else happens when you stay stuck at level 1?
Fifth, positional leadership can be incredibly lonely. If your mindset is king of the hill, where you're trying to stand above everyone else, you isolate yourself. Good leadership is about walking beside people, helping them climb with you.
And Maxwell links this loneliness and this whole king of the hill mentality to insecurity, right?
He does, and it's a crucial insight. Sixth, insecure leaders at level 1 feel threatened by talented people. They might subtly or overtly undermine potential leaders on their team to protect their own position.
Which drives away the best people.
Exactly. It drives away the best, leaving behind only those who are average, unmotivated, or maybe just don't pose a threat. It creates an us versus them culture where the leader is separate from and often in conflict with their team.
Which sounds like a recipe for people just checking out mentally.
Seventh, absolutely. You end up with clock watchers, people whose main focus is just when can they leave? Maxwell has that memorable line. The people who work with you can hardly wait to quit working with you. Something is not working.
That's powerful.
This includes the mentally absent, who are physically present but totally disengaged, just collecting a paycheck. The source mentions Gallup statistics highlighting the massive cost of disengagement, billions, and points out that this negative attitude is contagious.
It really is. It sounds like trying to rely on position often backfires too.
Eighth, yes. Positional leaders might fall back on their title when things get difficult, but it's often not very effective. That story of Christian Herter running for re-election as governor.
Oh, the chicken lady story.
Yes, asking for extra chicken at a church barbecue and trying to pull rank. Do you know who I am? I am the governor. Only to be told by the lady in charge, do you know who I am? I am the lady in charge of the chicken. Now move along, mister.
Brilliant.
It perfectly illustrates the limits of positional authority.
Position doesn't guarantee you extra chicken. Message received. And the source also talks about a sense of entitlement.
It does. Ninth, relying on position can lead to entitlement. The examples of Rudy Giuliani and Hillary Clinton in the 2008 primaries are used here. Giuliani, the early frontrunner, skipped early primaries, seemingly assuming his position would carry him.
While McCain was working hard.
Exactly. McCain worked the ground game hard and gained momentum. Clinton similarly seemed to assume she'd win by Super Tuesday, lacking a robust strategy beyond that, which allowed Obama to build unstoppable momentum through persistent effort. Good leaders understand that leadership is earned and must be re-earned constantly. You can't take it for granted.
So staying at level 1 sounds not only ineffective, but actively detrimental to the organization and the leader's potential. The key insight for moving beyond this is, well, you have to prove you deserve the position by gaining influence, and that means moving past just the title.
Absolutely, and that shift requires changing some fundamental beliefs about leadership and people.
What are the crucial beliefs needed to leave level 1 behind?
Well, first, you have to truly believe that position alone is not true leadership. It's just the starting line. Second, you must recognize that people, your team members, are your most valuable asset, far more valuable than rules or processes.
And giving up the idea that you, as the leader, need to have all the answers. Is that part of it?
Yes, third. That's huge. Positional leaders often feel pressure to know everything to maintain their authority. But this is a significant barrier to growth. A good leader understands they don't need all the answers and that admitting that isn't a weakness.
Which allows you to include others, presumably.
Fourth, absolutely. Positional leaders tend to operate in isolation. Moving up means realizing that a good leader always includes others. Leadership isn't just about leading over people, it's about leading with them. This requires collaboration, inclusion, and letting go of selfish ambition for the sake of the team.
Okay, changing beliefs is one thing, but how do you actually do it? What are the practical steps Maxwell recommends for growing through level 1, getting off level 1?
He gives some really clear guidance. First, shift your focus from your job description to the organization's vision. Rewrite your role, even just mentally, in terms of helping your people understand and fulfill that vision. See your job as clearing the way for their success related to the bigger picture.
Okay, clearing the way. I like that.
Second, shift from rules to relationships. Stop relying on policies and procedures as your primary tools. Value every person on your team and actively communicate that value to them. Treat them like the most appreciable asset they are.
And you can't just wait for them to come to you.
No. Third, you have to initiate contact. Get out of your office, your cubicle. Get to know your team members personally. Express appreciation, offer encouragement, provide support. Go to where they are.
And resist the urge to pull rank.
Fourth, consciously avoid mentioning your title or position. Break the habit of reminding people who's in charge. Identify less with your official role and more with your contribution to the team's overall effort.
And this last one feels like a big one, especially if you're wrestling with insecurity, like you mentioned.
It is. Fifth, learn to say, I don't know. Admit when you don't have the answer to a question or a problem. This is a sign of strength, not weakness. It allows you to enlist and empower your team to find solutions. Maxwell actually suggests practicing this for a month, specifically asking for your team's opinions and admitting when you lack the answer.
That's a powerful exercise. So level 1 is your starting point, given by position. But to move forward, you have to make intentional shifts in your mindset and your behavior, focusing on others and building connection.
Exactly. You don't leave level 1 behind. You build level 2 right on top of it. Position gives you the initial platform, but gaining true influence requires building relationships.
Which leads us directly to level 2. Permission, this is the relationship level, and the key here, as you said, is that people follow you because they want to.
Yes. This level is built on genuine connection and caring about people. It's where leaders move from being bosses to being people others choose to follow.
And the upsides of this level sound much more positive than being stuck at level 1.
Oh, they are, definitely. The first and perhaps most immediate upside is that the workplace just becomes a far more pleasant environment for everyone involved. The shift from have to want to changes the whole atmosphere.
The focus definitely shifts.
Yes. Second, the focus moves from me, my position, my rights, to we, our relationships, our environment. Leadership is seen as an opportunity to serve, to help others, as J. Donald Walters noted.
And leaders at this level actually like people and genuinely want to help them succeed.
Third, the genuine care is palpable. The prevalent attitude is serving others and helping bring out their best.
You really value people and lift the value bar, as the source puts it.
Fourth, this is a hallmark of great permission leaders. Nelson Mandela is a powerful example. His humility and constant focus on others made people feel seen and valued.
Right.
That story of Peter the businessman having breakfast with Mandela illustrates this. Even a successful person felt lifted simply by being genuinely respected and valued by Mandela. Nothing empowers a person like feeling truly valued.
And it's about seeing individuals, not just roles or functions.
Absolutely. Fifth,
Yeah.
you move beyond job titles and see people as unique individuals with their own strengths, weaknesses, hopes, and dreams, and you commit to helping them succeed. Maxwell recalls his father's advice to him as a young minister. Most people feel undervalued, insecure, and lost, and it's the leader's job to change that. And that isn't just true in ministry or at work. It applies in families, friendships, everywhere. Valuing and respecting individuals is a common thread in truly great organizations.
And all this relationship building, this is the foundation for trust, isn't it?
Sixth, trust is absolutely essential at level 2. It's built through integrity and genuine care over time. The more trust you build, the stronger your relationships and the greater your potential influence. It's not instantaneous, it's a continuous building process.
Yeah.
That slightly awkward story of the colonel pretending to talk to General Schwarzkopf right as the private arrives to hook up his phone, it shows how quickly prioritizing trying to impress can undermine authenticity and trust.
Yeah, integrity matters. And that trust becomes incredibly important when things get tough, I imagine.
Yes, Admiral James Stockdale's quote captures it. When the crunch comes, people cling to those they know they can trust. In challenging times, relationships are a shelter. In times of opportunity, they're a launching pad. Trust creates a safe environment where people feel comfortable enough to create, share ideas, question assumptions, attempt new things, and take risks. Without trust, leadership is fragile.
So level 2 sounds like a much more human, supportive place to be, but there are also potential downsides here. It's not perfect.
No, it's not the end goal. There are downsides. The first is that, for some people, or in certain organizational cultures, permission leadership can be misread as too soft or weak.
Okay.
Especially in high-pressure, results-focused environments, caring for people might be dismissed by those who just want action.
And it can be frustrating for those who are highly results-oriented themselves, I suppose.
Second, yes, building genuine relationships takes time and consistent effort. High achievers focused on speed might see this as slow work, maybe even distracting from getting results.
And there's the risk of getting so focused on the relationships that you lose sight of the larger goals, right? Like why you're there in the first place.
Third, that's the key danger. Relationships can become an end in themselves. Leaders can become so focused on being liked and maintaining harmony that they lose sight of the fact that leadership is ultimately about helping people work together to achieve meaningful results.
Right.
High-achieving team members might become restless if they feel they're just having coffee and not making progress, and they might try to take over or eventually leave.
Okay, so the critical insight for growth here is that level 2 isn't the destination. You have to balance caring relationships with achieving results. You need to succeed at both permission and production to move forward effectively.
Absolutely. Building the relationship gives you the right to lead, but you still need to lead towards something. To do that, there are specific behaviors that help you gain people's permission and build that relationship foundation.
Let's walk through those key behaviors. First, genuinely care about the people you lead.
Be available and approachable. Make the effort to know them individually, their names, what's happening in their families, their personal stories, their goals. Show genuine interest beyond just their job function.
Second, see people as individuals, understanding their unique strengths and weaknesses, and genuinely commit to helping them succeed.
Third, learn to listen well. This is absolutely fundamental to building trust and respect. Give your full attention when someone is speaking. Listen for both the facts and the underlying feelings. Ask clarifying questions and resist that urge to interrupt.
The source also highlights 5 core aspects of relational leadership. What were those again?
Fourth, yes, practice authentic humility, authentic gratitude, authentic forgiveness, authentic service, and authentic connection. These aren't just nice ideas. They are the building blocks of genuine relationships.
And the timeless principle that underlies so much of this practice, the golden rule.
Fifth, treat others as you want to be treated. This principle, found in virtually every major religion and ethical system globally, the source lists Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Zoroastrianism, Confucianism, Baha'i, Jainism, even a Yoruba proverb.
Wow, it's everywhere.
It's powerful because it immediately creates an environment where everyone feels respected.
6, begin to become a people developer. This becomes central later, level 4, but the foundation starts here.
Exactly. 7th, place a high value on people. Value isn't just something you say, it's something you show through your actions. The source notes that everyone benefits from encouragement. That story of C.S. Lewis encouraging J.R. Tolkien while he was writing The Lord of the Rings, it's a beautiful illustration of how a leader's affirmation, those were the next chapter, you can't give up now, can be a powerful catalyst.
Totally.
A leader's words carrying weight, like, I'm glad you work with me, you add incredible value, are incredibly powerful at this level.
8th, extend trust. Start with a general attitude of trust in people. Specific trust is then earned over time through actions. Remember, trust is always a two-way street.
9th, be forthright, which means being authentic and candid. This requires self-honesty. Jack Pear's joke, looking back, my life seems like one big obstacle race, with me being the chief obstacle, points to the need for self-awareness. As Samuel Johnson put it, trying to change everything but yourself is futile. Leaders need awareness of humanity, sensitivity to hopes and aspirations, analyzing emotions. As Herb Kelleher said, leading is as much about soul as it is about systems.
Soul and systems.
You need people's buy-in, not just their procedural compliance, which comes from consistent mood, optimism, listening, and just being your authentic self.
Which leads into a really crucial balance.
10th, balance care and candor. This is vital. Care without candor leads to dysfunctional relationships where necessary truths aren't spoken. Candor without care creates cold, distant relationships where people feel attacked.
Right.
Care balanced with candor creates developing relationships where people feel supported even when receiving tough feedback.
Yeah.
Leaders have to be willing to have tough conversations when needed for growth. Like Maxwell's experience coaching Cheryl, a high producer who struggled relationally.
Okay.
Not everyone responds positively, he notes, but those who do become candidates for higher levels. Colin Sewell's quote is important here. Leaders have to make the best decisions for the largest group. Leaders give up the right to cater to an individual if it hurts the team or the organization.
Results still matter.
Results still matter, yeah. That coach and president story highlights it. I'd like you as much, I'd just miss having you around. And candor needs to go both ways, solicit feedback and accept criticism without defensiveness. Warren Bennis called this reflective backtalk that improves decision-making.
So permission is built on actively demonstrating care and building genuine connections. Maxwell also highlights several laws of leadership that are particularly relevant here.
Yes, the law of influence itself, the law of addition, actively adding value to others, the law of solid ground, trust is the absolute foundation, the law of magnetism, who you are attracts who you attract, the law of connection, and the law of buy-in. People buy into the leader and then the vision, and at this level, the buy-in is based purely on the relationship.
And to grow through level 2, building these relationships requires growth on two fronts, doesn't it? Like compatibility and intentionality.
Correct. You need to grow toward each other, which is about increasing compatibility, and grow with each other, which requires intentional effort to build a relationship over time. The source gives a heads up. You can invest the time to build these relationships now, which might feel slower, or try to jump ahead.
But you'll pay later.
But you'll almost certainly have to backtrack later, which damages momentum even more.
So how do you intentionally work your way through level 2? What's the practical guide?
First, shift your focus from me to we. Constantly think less about yourself and more about how you can help the people around you.
Second, make valuing people a priority. Actively look for people's unique qualities, appreciate their differences, and make sure they know that you value them.
Third, practice the golden rule in all your interactions. Seek win-win outcomes where possible.
Fourth, be a consistent source of encouragement. Use positive words and offer sincere affirmation. Be someone who lifts others up.
Fifth, work on balancing care and candor. It's a skill that requires practice knowing when and how to have tough conversations while still demonstrating that you care deeply about the person.
Sixth, be intentional about connecting. Don't just expect relationships to happen. Get out of your usual space, spend time with people, listen to them, and build those bonds.
And finally, seventh, accept people for who they are, including their differences. You can help them grow, but you must start by accepting them unconditionally where they are right now.
Level 2 is clearly foundational, establishing that crucial trust and goodwill. But you mentioned it's not the destination. Leadership isn't just about making people feel good or want to follow. It's about leading them somewhere to achieve something.
Exactly. You have to connect that potential built through relationships to actual performance and results. Level 2 makes people want to follow you. Level 3 shows them why they should follow you based on what you've accomplished together. There's always a risk in moving forward, but the bigger risk is stagnation.
Which brings us to level 3, production. This is the results level, and here, people follow you because of what you have done for the organization.
This is where leadership gets tangible and measurable. According to Maxwell, this is where leadership really takes off. It's achieving results that build significant influence and credibility. You're not just a manager, you're someone who makes things happen.
And the upsides of operating at this level seem incredibly powerful for the organization as a whole.
Oh, they are. First, work gets done. Goals are achieved, projects are completed. This naturally leads to improved morale, increased efficiency, often higher profits, and reduced turnover. It's where you see tangible progress.
And this is where momentum kicks in, right? That's a big theme.
Second, momentum is described as a leader's best friend, the great exaggerator. Everything is harder without momentum. Everything becomes easier with it. It creates energy and makes progress feel almost inevitable.
And leaders at this level gain significant confidence and credibility.
Third, because they are consistently delivering results. Their influence grows because people see that following them leads to success and accomplishment.
And unlike level 1, you absolutely cannot fake level 3.
Fourth, no way. You're either producing results for the organization or you're not. Thomas Watson of IBM set the standard. Outstanding leaders set up their own quotas and constantly exceed them. There's no hiding behind a title here.
And productivity attracts other productive people. It's magnetic.
Fifth, yes, producers are drawn to environments where things get done, and to leaders who make that happen. They respect other high achievers, enjoy collaborating, and together they drive organizational growth.
Productive leaders also set a powerful example for their teams.
Sixth, leaders need to be among their people, demonstrating the kind of work ethic and capability they expect. Abraham Lincoln's decision to relieve General Fremont, who had isolated himself from his troops, shows that leaders need to be present and leading by their own ability. When the leader produces, it inspires the team to do the same.
And results bring clarity to the vision. It makes it real.
Seventh, exactly. Leaders cast vision, but seeing tangible results makes that vision real and achievable for people. The story of George Washington helping his soldiers lift the heavy beam shows how a leader's action can clarify the vision and inspire belief. Seeing progress makes the path forward clearer.
And productivity builds self-esteem and confidence, too, for the team.
Eighth, for everyone involved. As Thomas Carlyle famously said, nothing builds self-esteem and self-confidence like accomplishment. Achieving results is inherently motivating for individuals and teams, creating positive momentum and boosting morale.
Okay.
While morale and productivity influence each other, the source argues that removing production quickly damages morale, whereas maintaining production helps morale endure through challenges. That example of the incompetent General Winder in the War of 1812 shows how a lack of results demoralizes a force, while productive leaders find ways to win.
And finally, momentum again. It keeps coming up.
Ninth, yes, it's worth emphasizing. Consistent positive results generate powerful momentum, which helps the team push through problems, overcome negativity, and tackle obstacles that seemed insurmountable when standing still.
So level 3 is where the rubber meets the road, where potential and relationships translate into tangible results. But are there downsides to this level, or pitfalls?
There are, and one significant one is making the mistake of promoting high producers into leadership roles simply because they are good at their own job, even if they lack people skills or the desire to be responsible for others.
Ah, the classic mistake.
Yeah. The example of Ted Williams, legendary hitter, struggled as a coach, illustrates this. He was incredible at his own production, but couldn't effectively lead or teach others who weren't as naturally talented. Production ability is essential, but it's not the only qualification for leadership. You need the initial position, level 1, the ability to build permission, level 2, the capability for production, level 3, and the desire to take the team to a higher level.
And operating at level 3 often requires making tough calls that some leaders might shy away from.
That's the second downside. This is where leaders face difficult decisions, like confronting ineffectiveness or removing people who aren't contributing to the team's results. Failing to make these decisions limits the leader's own potential and the team's ability to produce. Maxwell shares that this was a struggle for him early on, but making those hard decisions was crucial for his personal and leadership growth.
So the core idea for growth here is that your ability to produce results gives you credibility, but you must leverage that production to build the team's capacity and achieve the vision, not just focus on your own output.
Exactly. It's about leading the team to produce, not just being the star producer yourself. To do that, Maxwell outlined several key behaviors for making things happen on level 3.
Okay, what are they? First, commit to personal production.
You absolutely have to lead by example. Hold yourself to a higher standard than you hold others. Be accountable for your own results, set and reach your own goals, accept responsibility, and admit your failures. You should never ask others to do what you aren't willing to do yourself. Measure your own success by results, and be willing to make the tough call of removing yourself from situations where you can't be effective.
Second, continually cast vision for what needs to be accomplished.
Vision casting is vital. It needs to be clear, creative, and communicated constantly. Show people how their daily production contributes to the long-term vision. A compelling vision is also expansive, challenging, aligned with values, focused on the desired outcome, and leverages the team's strengths.
Third, start developing your people into a cohesive team, moving beyond just liking each other.
Exactly. On level 2, people like being together. On level 3, they learn to work effectively together to achieve results. Production is the catalyst for true team building. The leader has to show the way and push forward, like Columbus demonstrating how to stand the egg on its end, showing people how the difficult can be done. Team ownership of the plan is crucial. The halftime adjustment meeting story, where the leader asked the team for their input first, gained perspective, and ensured they bought into the plan because it was partly theirs.
Fourth, equip people for production. Help them succeed.
Help your team members do their jobs well. It's not enough to just tell them to hit a home run like Jack Benny's violin teacher supposedly said. You have to provide the training, resources, and opportunities they need to succeed. That Benjamin Franklin letter to John Paul Jones, emphasizing praise and confessing fault, fits here too. Lifting people up is part of equipping them to perform.
Fifth, understand and implement the key laws of teamwork.
Yeah, things like the law of identity, shared values create unity, the law of communication, interaction fuels action and understanding. The law of the edge, leadership is often the difference between two equally talented teams, and the law of high morale. Nothing hurts as much when you're winning. Getting a diverse group of individuals to work together cohesively is a challenge, but incredibly rewarding when done effectively.
Sixth, prioritize. Focus energy effectively.
Focus your energy and your team's energy on the areas that will yield the highest return. Effective prioritization isn't just about making a to-do list. It's about identifying and eliminating what you shouldn't be doing. The Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule that 20% of your efforts yield 80% of your results, is a powerful tool here. Apply it to your personal tasks, your daily focus, and your team's priorities.
Seventh, be willing and ready to be a change agent.
Progress necessitates change. You need level 1 position, level 2 relationships, and level 3 results and momentum to effectively lead change in an organization. It's incredibly difficult to initiate change when things are stagnant. Momentum provides the energy needed to overcome resistance. Start by finding common ground, shared vision, values, goals, circumstances, rather than emphasizing differences. And eighth, never lose sight that results are your ultimate goal at this level. You have to fight for productivity, regardless of obstacles, economic conditions, or people issues. The best leaders, like Henry Ford, find ways to produce consistently.
So level 3 is about the hard work of achieving, creating momentum, and building a team that performs. The relevant laws of leadership include the law of the big Mo, momentum, the law of sacrifice. You can tell you're on the road to success. It's uphill all the way. As Paul Harvey put it, you have to give up things to go up. And a law of buy-in. People buy into the leader, then the vision. And at this level, buy-in is heavily influenced by their belief in the leader's ability to get results.
Exactly. And successfully navigating level 3 positions you for the next significant leap in influence.
Getting results is fantastic. It builds credibility and it's essential. But to reach the highest levels of leadership and influence, you can't just be a great producer yourself. You have to make the transition, a big one, from being the doer-in-chief to being a developer of people. What got you to level 3 isn't sufficient for level 4.
Yeah, it's a critical shift. Level 4 is people development, sometimes called the reproduction level. Here, people follow you not just because of the results you've achieved for the organization, but because of what you have done for them.
This requires a profound change in focus, doesn't it? From the task to the person.
It truly does. Level 4 leaders intentionally invest their time, energy, money, and thinking into growing others as leaders. They actively look for potential in everyone around them, regardless of their current title, position, age, or experience.
And the upsides of leading at this level sound incredibly impactful, not just for individuals, but for the entire organization.
They are transformative. First, transitioning from just being a producer to being a developer of people is absolutely necessary to create truly elite, high-performing organizations. As we said before, people are the most appreciable asset, and developing them is how you multiply your impact.
It creates a compounding positive effect,
Yeah.
like interest.
Second, exactly. Developing one person brings out the best in them, which often catalyzes bringing out the best in the entire team. Developing one leader lays the foundation for developing many others. The example of Jim Blanchard and Synovus is powerful here, consistently ranked among Fortune's best places to work, largely because their leaders are dedicated to developing people. Training and development were cited by employees as the most appreciated benefit, even more than pay or supervisor interest.
Wow. And this frees up the leader too, right? Takes the lid off.
Third, yes.
Yeah.
You become less of a lid on your team's potential. Leaders who are unwilling to share resources, knowledge, or responsibility effectively cap the growth of those around them. People development means sharing that load and empowering others to rise.
It also seems like this level brings a unique kind of personal fulfillment.
Fourth, absolutely. The source quotes Everett Shostrom, and the teacher who found the greatest satisfaction came from giving to others, forgetting herself, exemplified by her student Eddie saying, "Because I like myself now when I'm with you."
That's lovely.
Maxwell reflects that his closest relationships are often with those who brought out the best in him and those he helped develop, listing his inner circle like Mark Cole, David and Lori Hoyt, Charlie and Stephanie Wetzel, Patrick and Linda Eggers as examples of people who grew into significant leaders and contributed immensely. Howard Schultz's quote reinforces this victory is more meaningful when it's a joint achievement. True satisfaction comes from helping others succeed.
And this is where your leadership impact becomes exponential, multiplication.
Fifth, this is the law of explosive growth in action. If you develop a follower, you gain one person. If you develop a leader, level 3, you gain that leader and all the people who follow them. But if you develop a level 4 leader, someone who can also develop leaders, you gain a leader who creates more leaders and all of their followers. That's exponential growth. That's multiplication.
So the upsides are incredible for the organization and the leader personally, but the downsides at this level often seem internal to the leader, things they have to overcome in themselves.
They do. The first major downside is selfishness. Leaders might be unwilling to invest in or share resources with others because they want to maintain their own advantage or hoard responsibility. You have to get over your selfishness, get outside of yourself to reach level 4.
And insecurity is another massive barrier, isn't it?
Second, huge. Insecure leaders are threatened by the idea of developing others, fearing that someone will surpass them or take their place. Wayne Schmidt's quote is stark. No amount of personal competency can compensate for personal insecurity. Leaders who don't address their own insecurities are unlikely to reach level 4.
What are the specific ways insecurity shows up and hinders people development? The source mentioned a few.
Yes, the source identifies 3 key areas: ego, trust, and control. Insecure leaders often believe they need to have all the answers and make all the decisions. Ego, struggling with self-knowledge and seeing success as a collaborative effort. Their goal should be for others to think more highly of themselves. They struggle to trust others, and therefore hesitate to invest in developing them. The Elizabeth the Cheerleader story shows how a single failure can deeply erode trust and create lasting hesitation. And they have a strong need to control everything. Making it difficult to empower others. Effective level 4 leaders move from perfectionist to pragmatist, willing to release control to enable others' growth.
So the key idea for growth is being incredibly intentional about identifying and developing others and actively working to overcome internal barriers like selfishness and insecurity.
It requires introspection and a commitment to personal growth alongside developing others. The source provides specific best behaviors for leading at level 4.
Okay, let's hear them. First, recruiting, finding potential leaders.
Yes. Maxwell's organization, EQIP, focuses on training indigenous leaders globally and looks for potential using the 4 C's. Chemistry, do you connect with them? Will the team? The friendship principle, people work with people they like. Character makes trust possible, aligns intentions and actions, crucial for credibility. Capacity, can they meet requirements and potential? Charles Barkley's distinction between a star and a support player. And contribution, are they winners? Do they go beyond their job and lift others? Mark Cole's given as an example. Lou Holtz's quote, "I'm a better coach with good players."
Okay, the 4 Cs. Second, positioning, placing the right people in the right roles.
Like Red Auerbach, who wasn't just looking for the 5 best players, but the 5 players who work best together. You need to understand people's strengths and weaknesses to put them where they and the team will thrive.
Third, modeling living the example you want them to follow. Still important.
Always important. You can't expect others to grow if you aren't demonstrating growth yourself. Don't neglect your own level 3 production, but also model the developmental mindset.
Fourth, equipping, providing what others need to do their jobs well and grow.
This means more than just telling them to succeed. It's providing training, resources, access to information, and guidance.
Fifth, empowering, enabling people to succeed by giving them freedom and authority. Letting go.
Yes, letting go. As Theodore Roosevelt said, pick good people and then leave them alone. Trust them to do the job, believe in their capability, and hold them accountable for results. Trust is a bond of shared vulnerability. Accountability provides focus and helps people rise to expectations.
Sixth, measuring, evaluating development to maximize efforts. Checking progress.
Exactly. Success isn't just about what the leader knows, it's about what the team learns and applies. Measure your success by how independently and effectively your team members can function.
The relevant laws of leadership at this level are the law of empowerment, only secure leaders give power. The law of reproduction, it takes a leader to raise up a leader, you can't develop others if you aren't a leader yourself. And the law of buy-in, people buy into the leader, then the vision, and at level 4, they buy into the opportunity for their own growth.
These laws really emphasize the internal security needed to empower others, the self-awareness required to reproduce leadership qualities, and the compelling draw of helping others fulfill their potential.
So how do you intentionally work through level 4? What's the guide here?
First, focus your people development efforts on the top 20% of your emerging leaders. Apply the Pareto principle here. Investing 80% of your time and energy into developing your most promising 20% yields the highest return and is essential for building your capacity to reach level 5.
Okay, focus on the best. Second, create a leadership culture.
Make leadership development an explicit, important value within your team or organization. Jim Blanchard's questions for assessing this culture are key. Are you creating an environment where people realize they are the company's greatest asset and key to growth? Third, create a personal development process for each key person. Recognize their unique abilities and tailor your approach. You need to work fluidly with different talents, temperaments, and styles, leading everyone differently. As Benjamin Franklin said, the eye of the master will do more work than both his hands, meaning personal attention matters.
Fourth, equip those potential leaders with leadership tools, training, resources, and experiences.
Fifth, provide them with leadership opportunities. Give them real responsibility and authority to lead projects or teams themselves.
Sixth, instill experiential learning. Help them learn through doing, through trial and error, navigating risk and reward.
Yes, Robert J. Thomas's MIT research highlights crucible moments as super-concentrated leadership development. These are challenging experiences that forge leaders.
Seventh, actively identify and create these crucible moments for your team members. Put them in situations where they have to develop essential leadership qualities like integrity, problem-solving, vision, communication, etc. Send them to fix the problem instead of doing it yourself. Give them speaking opportunities, put them in charge of challenging projects.
And use your own crucible moments as teaching tools. Analyze your own breakthrough experiences, your groundbreakers, growth builders, barrier removers, and culture changers, and use those lessons to help others navigate their own challenges and break through their leadership lids.
Level 4 is clearly about multiplication, not just getting results, but building the capacity for others to get results and develop others themselves. It's a big leap.
It's a fundamental shift in identity and purpose for the leader, moving from being the primary engine to building and fueling many engines.
And mastering level 4 is the prerequisite for the final, highest level.
Level 5. The pinnacle. This is the respect level, the rarest level, where people follow because of who you are and what you represent.
This level is the culmination of leading well on all the previous levels, combined with high skill and often some natural ability. It's characterized by developing other leaders to level 4 and creating a lasting legacy.
Right.
It's typically achieved later in a leader's career and isn't a place to rest, but a place to reproduce leadership on an even greater scale.
The upsides here are profound. First, Pinnacle leadership creates level 5 organizations, those truly elite, high-performing organizations that operate at the highest capacity, as described by Jim Collins in Good to Great.
And your influence extends far beyond your immediate role or even your lifetime.
Second, exactly. Your impact goes beyond your current organization or industry and extends into the future through the generations of leaders you've developed. Maxwell describes the 3 phases of a leader's journey: learning, earning, and returning. Level 5 is the returning phase, where you use your influence and experience to lift others, tackle significant challenges, and make a lasting positive difference beyond your immediate sphere.
That sounds incredibly impactful. But even at this level, there's a potential downside, maybe the biggest one of all.
There is. And it's the greatest danger for level 5 leaders. You may start to believe it's all about you.
The ego trap.
Exactly. Even with the maturity and experience gained from the previous levels, the temptation of arrogance can be powerful and can derail even the most accomplished leader. The story of King Gustavus Adolphus, designing the magnificent warship Vasa himself despite lacking expertise, and rushing its launch due to impatience, leading to its sinking on its maiden voyage.
Oh dear.
It's a cautionary tale. His confidence wasn't enough. He needed humility and reliance on the expertise of others.
So the core idea for growth at the Pinnacle is focusing intensely on developing others to potentially surpass you and deliberately cultivating that lasting legacy while constantly guarding against ego.
It requires profound self-awareness and dedication to a purpose beyond yourself. The source outlines key behaviors for leading at the Pinnacle.
First, remain humble and teachable, always learning.
Actively guard against arrogance. Write a personal credo for learning. Commit to a growth plan. And, crucially, seek honest feedback from your inner circle people who will tell you the truth, even when it's hard.
Second, maintain your core focus on developing people, especially those with level 4 potential, using that 80-20 rule again.
Your greatest return on investment at this level is in reproducing level 4 leaders. Keep that as your primary development focus.
Third, create an inner circle that will keep you grounded.
The law of the inner circle states your potential is determined by those closest to you. At level 5, they're essential not just for maximizing your potential, but for keeping you from believing your own publicity and becoming disconnected.
Fourth, focus on the leader's impact, meaning your impact on developing other leaders.
It takes a level 5 leader to effectively develop a level 4 leader. Potential level 45 leaders won't follow someone less capable for long. You must dedicate significant time and effort to mentoring them, going to them, extending your hand, and helping them climb. If you don't, they will go elsewhere to find the development they need. Fifth, focus on the leader's focus, meaning focus on people's strengths when developing them. While acknowledging weaknesses is necessary, the greatest growth comes from building on where someone is already strong. It's not a counseling approach focused on problems, but a coaching approach focused on potential.
Sixth, focus on succession, planning for the future beyond yourself.
Peter Drucker's challenging question to Maxwell, who is going to replace you, became a pivotal moment. You must plan for succession and start developing potential successors early. Don't cling to your position too long out of personal gratification, damaging the momentum and limiting the next generation. Leave before you feel you have to. Jack Welch's successor, coming from a long-shot list, emphasizes the importance of mentoring widely.
And finally, seventh, deliberately leave a positive legacy. Think about it now.
What do you want your life's work to stand for? Your legacy isn't just one big event. It's the sum of your daily actions, how you spend your time, your interactions, your values lived out. Decide now what you want your legacy to be, who will help you build it, and start living in alignment with that. The stories of Billy Graham reflecting on life's brevity and Alfred Nobel changing his focus after reading his own premature obituary are powerful reminders that it's never too late to change direction and use your success and influence as a platform for something greater than yourself or your organization.
The laws of leadership, particularly relevant at level 5, include the law of intuition, seeing everything with a leadership bias, trusting well-informed hunches described as the hardest to teach, the law of timing, knowing when to lead is as important as what to do, often instinctive, and your credibility helps others trust your timing. The law of legacy. Lasting value is measured by succession. The goal is to create something that continues to impact, not to live forever. And the law of explosive growth, multiplying by leading leaders, especially developing those capable of level 4 leadership.
To intentionally grow at level 5, the guide involves remaining humble and teachable, continuing to learn and focus on developing that top 20% of leaders, cultivating that strong inner circle, actively developing future level 5 leaders by sharing lessons and creating crucible moments, planning your succession, planning your legacy, and using your success as a platform for something greater.
And the source uses John Wooden as a powerful example of a level 5 leader, bringing all these levels together beautifully.
Wooden's success as a basketball coach is legendary: 620 wins, 10 NCAA championships, incredible win streaks.
Yeah.
But his level 5 status wasn't just about the numbers. It was about who he was and what he represented.
At the permission level, he built genuine, strong relationships with his players and always did what he believed was right for them, even if it was difficult. Like refusing the NAIB invitation because his African-American player, Clarence Walker, wasn't allowed to play back then.
Right, integrity first.
He maintained close relationships with his players long after their time at UCLA and famously understood that if, as a leader, you listen to them, then they'll listen to you.
At the production level, his teams were incredibly productive, obviously, and he showed them the way through his own discipline and his clear framework for performance, the pyramid of success. He led by example.
At the people development level, he wasn't just recruiting talented players. He was selecting people with potential and developing them both on and off the court. He was reportedly more proud of his players' accomplishments in life than on the basketball court. He recruited based on more than just skill, looking at transcripts for academics, family life, and character, like that story of not offering the scholarship to the disrespectful player. He saw himself as teaching values first and basketball second.
And at the Pinnacle level, he reached the highest level of respect for his character and what he represented, evidenced by the Wooden Award, the Wooden Classic, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He left an enduring legacy, living by the simple principles on his father's card about making the most of oneself, being true to yourself, making each day a masterpiece, helping others, learning, valuing friendship, planning for the future, and being grateful.
Wooden's story is such a powerful illustration of how these levels build upon one another to create a leader whose influence transcends their formal role and even their lifetime.
It really shows that this isn't just theory. It's a path lived by truly impactful leaders.
So let's bring this back to you, the listener. We've gone through the journey. Level 1, position, people follow because they have to. Level 2, permission, because they want to. Level 3, production, because of what you've done for the organization.
Level 4, people development, because of what you've done for them.
And level 5, the pinnacle, because of who you are and what you represent.
Remember, this is a cumulative process. You build upon the lower levels. You don't just leave them behind. Growth requires intentional effort, consistency, and experience, much like an athlete training to reach peak performance. Success at one level strengthens your foundation and makes it easier to grow to the next.
So as you reflect on this framework, ask yourself, where do you feel you are on this leadership journey right now? What level feels like your current primary focus or maybe your biggest challenge?
Consider the practical steps for growth at each level. Are you actively working on building relationships and gaining permission? Level 2. Are you prioritizing and fighting for results? Level 3. Are you intentionally investing your time and energy into developing the people around you? Level 4. Are you thinking about your long-term impact and planning for succession? Level 5. And throughout it all, are you balancing care with necessary candor?
This framework from Maxwell provides a really clear roadmap for developing your influence, which is the essence of leadership. It shows that true sustainable leadership isn't granted by a title. It's built step by step by growing your influence with people, achieving results with them, and ultimately investing deeply in their growth and development.
Which leaves us with this powerful thought to consider, maybe mull over. Given that leadership is this intentional, cumulative journey built on increasing your influence and investing in others, what one level requires your most urgent attention and focused effort right now to unlock your potential, the potential of your team, and the potential of your organization?
A question we're thinking about. Thank you for bringing this fascinating source material to our attention for this deep dive.
We hope this exploration of the 5 levels of leadership provides you with clarity and perhaps some practical direction on your own path.